we really do need to talk about the biggest cricket story in town, the sale of the 100, which began for real in the last 48 hours, with Surrey selling 49% of the Oval Invincibles to the Ambani family in Mumbai, whilst the Birmingham Bears have become part of the Brady Bunch. Lots to discuss here. Abhishek, let's turn to you first. How is this being, and good afternoon to you, by the way.
Hey, good afternoon.
How is this being viewed in India?
I think the plan is pretty simple for all the Indian franchise to go around the world wherever there are leagues and acquire teams. England, again, in that fashion, is always been very attractive to all these Indian IPL franchise owners, because obviously it sets right in the middle of when India doesn't have much cricket after the IPL. There's a lean period in India, so they can invest the money here and pick up some stake, which they did. And Ambani's, as you know, they want to control cricket, not just with teams, with broadcasting and media and everything. They are in everything in India at the moment. But overall, yes, there is, I mean, people haven't, I don't know how much people have watched the 100 in India. They have heard a lot about it recently because of all the acquisitions being happening with the Indian owners. So hopefully it's a good thing for the 100 with all the Indian franchise coming in.
How important do you think it has been for the Ambani family to get involved? From an English cricket perspective, could this have succeeded without them?
It's a big question. I mean, we know that 100 is a good format, but at the moment, it's only played in England. No other country or no other country has taken up to it. But now with the investment from the Ambanis and from the Indian investors, the IPL owners, I think this format could go elsewhere as well.
You think the format will go elsewhere? It won't change to a T20?
I mean, if they change it, yes. I always think that this is a format which not many countries will like to do, because T20 is pretty similar to that. It's only 20 balls short. But now with the Indian, especially with the IPL owners coming in, it's very hard to tell, because there is a window. I think they always had a plan in India as well to have a mini IPL in somewhere September, October. I wouldn't be surprised if they try and pick a new format.
Jarrod Kimber is also alongside us. Jarrod, how is it that Australia have managed to maintain complete control over their summer, their international cricket? There seems to be a harmony between the international cricket and the Big Bash in a way that we don't seem to have managed in this country. Well, certainly, although the facts and the figures aren't necessarily through, and you can spin stats any way you like, really, it does seem like the Big Bash is on the up. Crowds seem to be good. Good product. So how have Australia managed that and England haven't?
Because they have low expectations, and England were trying to come in and make the second biggest tournament in the world, and Australia decided about 6-7 years ago that wasn't their mission anymore. Right? They got a little bit upset when the Bangladesh Premier League got some players that they wanted, but they only had to ride that out for a year before everyone in Bangladesh, that whole league almost capitulated in on itself. And there's been some conversations about the fact that the IL-20 and the SA-20 and all these different things are getting better players than them. But you've got local players playing on TV every night, and it rates okay. I think from a Cricket Australia perspective, that's fine. It's always been set up to sell, right? Yeah. And the 100 was copied off the Big Bash, so it was set up to be sold as well. The difference is the Cricket Australia went, well, is it worth us selling it at this point? And then having all the other issues, like, with all due respects to your new owners, John, the Ambani family.
49%.
They're not a 49% kind of people, the Ambani family, right? That's not how they roll.
Well, exactly. It isn't. Also, Surrey in my team, not the Oval Invincibles.
I said that just to annoy him, by the way.
But also, you're absolutely right. I think if Ambani's take a stake anywhere, they want the control. Even if they have 49%, that's not going to last for very long. I can promise you that.
It's not morally 49%. Yeah, I can tell you that.
Yeah. And also the control, how things are going to run. I think a lot will be controlled by the Ambani family.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Cricket Australia have had about every 2 years they have a big conversation again. Should we do this? I don't think they think that the money is worth it. Unfortunately, the ECB did think the money was worth it, partly because they hadn't been very well run for a little period of time.
That actually is the answer then, isn't it? They don't think it's worth it. They don't think it's... and they don't need it.
Well, I think the second bit is part of it, whereas I think the ECB did need it. The difference with cricket is, in Australia, is that it is a bigger sport, right? It's only a big sport for about 2.5 months, but you've been there, John. It's a big sport for those 2.5 months. It never has a period like that in the UK. It never has a period where it dominates the conversations, and the general sports people are talking about cricket. You might get it for an Ashes, but that's about it, right? So Australia has that, and also everyone in Australia is available to play cricket and does play cricket, whereas in the UK we know it's very class-based, it's very based on where you might have come from if you're an immigrant and everything else, whereas you see the Australian side, that you don't have that same sort of issue again, so you don't have the desperation that the 100 had.
I also feel that there's tribalism in Australia in a way that you don't get in England. We talk a lot about the Roses clash and a little bit about Middlesex Surrey. It kind of falls away. When you look at the Big Bash, I wouldn't want to be jumping on a plane and travelling 4 hours to go and play at the Wacker or now at the Optus. That's a tough team and a tough place to go and travel. The scenes coming out of Tasmania. I mean, I can't think of too many times in England where you have to essentially cross water to get to another team. So you have that inbuilt in you, and the distances between Adelaide or South Australia and Sydney, it just means that each territory seems to have that kind of, it's an organic rivalry rather than a manufactured one.
Even when they
tap into.
Yeah, even when they change it from Shield to City, it's still basically the same, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, Tasmania one's the only one that's maybe a little bit different because they've got 2 major cities, but no one else has 2 major cities in their state, right? Like, New South Wales cricket has never been anything outside of Sydney cricket, and then occasionally country people come in, right? And Victorian cricket is exactly the same, and Queensland cricket is exactly the same. So it was easier, but also it's set up, it's partly based on the IPL, which was based on American system. So, but Australia has city-based cultures. The UK doesn't have that again, right? And then you have the weird situation where, the only issues that we had in Melbourne and Sydney were when you had the second team, and everyone was like, well, what does the second team stand for? Like, that's the only issue that the Big Bash has ever had. That's not quite the same as the Glamorgan Somerset team. Is it Glamorgan Somerset? Have I even got the 2 teams right there? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, why would anyone from Somerset care about a Welsh T20 team, right? It's very different than Australia.
The other, almost the elephant in the room for me, as this has gone on and on, because there's this kind of idea that the 18 county system has to be protected. The 18 county system does not pay for itself. And along the way, whether international cricket's gone behind a paywall, whether the value of bilateral cricket's gone down, whether the fact cricket's become less and less an urban sport and therefore the youngsters aren't watching it in a social media age of clicks and yada, yada, yada. We've heard all of the reasons for and why and against. But
not enough beaches, I think John Lewis said.
Yeah. But essentially, isn't it also true that in Australia, they do not have to support 18 domestic teams? They have to support 6, or was it 8?
Well, it's 8 in the Big Bash, isn't it? 6
in Shield 8 in... That's kind of a massive difference, isn't it?
Well, I think the bigger difference is, though, that county cricket is still run so that those counties can make money. And Shield cricket...
not even make money, just survive.
But how much does it cost to go to a county game? Is it 20 quid, I think?
You can...
Certainly in London, it costs about 20 quid to go to a county game. Most Shield games are free. They're not even trying to get people in to pay them. They're being played completely for international cricket and for no other reason, right?
Which I suppose, from a purely financial perspective, you can do easier when there's 6 of them rather than when there's 18.
But also, that's not what counties are. Counties actually were the more powerful than the international cricket, whereas Australia was lucky. It kind of started with international cricket being the most important thing, and it came down. So in one case, you've got international cricket paying for county cricket, and in the other case, you've got first-class cricket only existing for international cricket. It's a very different... Then you've got the grounds, right? It doesn't matter how many people come to watch Victoria play in a Shield game when you're going to have 95,000 people see Collingwood Essendon at the MCG. right? So the grounds are already subsidised, whereas how do the grounds in the UK make money? They have to have corporate events. They hope that Taylor Swift turns up at one of their grounds. Like, otherwise, they don't make any money for the rest of the year, whereas... Adelaide Oval, Wacker, Optus Stadium, all these places, the Gabba, all play Aussie rules football and sometimes rugby as well.
It's interesting you say Taylor Swift because, of course, she wouldn't play at any ground in England because they're not big enough. But in Australia, she played at the MCG for the 4th time last week. I was listening to TMS commentary and Alex Hartley mentioned it. So that's the only reason I know that.
But Coldplay recently played in Ahmedabad a couple of days ago.
I saw Jay Shaw tweeting.
120,000
135,000 I think you'll find.
people
That's a
turned
shame.
up.
It's unfortunate. It's 120,000 people having to see Coldplay.
I mean,
do you ever see a world, Abhishek, where the Indian players are allowed to play in the 100?
I just don't see that happening. They're never going to let Indian players. I mean, the new rule, which at least allow the retired players to play in all these leagues, like the Dinesh Karthik was playing in SA20. So once you retire from Indian cricket, then you are allowed to play all the leagues around the world, like Shikhar Dhawan is going to do now. But unless you retire, which was not the case 5 years ago, even 5 years ago, even if you retired from Indian cricket, still you were not allowed to play any of these leagues. But at least that is coming in, and hence you see so many cricketers. Like, it was a very thoughtful retirement from Shikhar, because he thought, how much money am I going to get paid playing in the IPL? Probably say £500,000 But now with all these leagues and all these, there's a lot of Legends League happening as well. So he can make over $1.5 million just playing these 6 or 7 leagues.
So just to, I'm right in saying this, Shikhar Dhawan can play in the IPL and the overseas, or once you retire from India, you can't play in the IPL
Shikhar is not
either.
playing in the IPL anymore.
So you have to retire from the IPL.
You have to retire
so you have to retire
IPL.
from, because that's still a domestic tournament.
You have
isn't
to
it?
retire from international and any domestic cricket.
And you can't do what Raidu did, which was retire from the IPL, go and play in the other leagues, and then come back from the IPL. So they came up with a rule to stop that. I do think Indian stars will play in the other leagues, because the BCCI is still just about the most powerful thing in cricket, but it will be the owners within the next 10 to 15 years, and they're not investing all this money in these other leagues without getting their players in them.
More than the owners, the biggest issue is the advertisement. If at the moment I'm taking the name of Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma, at the moment if they are playing just in the IPL, all the sponsorships, Indian sponsorship stays in the IPL. But you need to think, the moment Virat Kohli goes and plays in an SA20 or the hundreds, they can get that sponsorship at a very, very cheaper price than what they are paying in the IPL. And hence, that's the only reason I think it's not going to happen.
No, this is why I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Basically, there is no league like the IPL. And you are talking about maybe 1 or 2% of the overall thing. And when you're talking about billionaire owners who have political capital, they are going... You can't tell me that some of these people have bought these teams around the world on the thought process that no Indian players will ever play in them. They are buying them because one day they'll be able to do that. And I get your point. Like, I'm not saying... I can understand why the BCCI would make your point.
Yeah.
The BCCI is just holding on to the power, and within the next 5 years, they will not... the owners will have so much more power. Once you sell the game, it doesn't come back. There's not... The NBA and the NFL are not run by the actual league. They're run by all the owners.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what will happen in cricket.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that, because BCCI... One thing I know about BCCI... They're never going to let the power go to anybody else. They'll try and control majority of the things.
Is the word. I think once you get to billionaires, good luck.
Also, you were scarred, weren't you? No comment.
No comment.
I can't believe he didn't plug his 17 Legend League commitments in that last one when you talked about the old player league. He plays in more Legend Leagues that actually exist.